It's good. Jimmy Swaggart died, so
Yep.
They're the liberal rednecks. They like cornbread, but sex they care way too much, but don't give a fuck. They're the liberal rednecks that makes some people upset, but they got three big old dicks that you can suck.
That's what I heard. What do you what like where you at on? I mean, obviously I know he don't hit.
you mean
But
like in the Mount Rushmore of televangelists? Where does Jimmy Swaggart fall?
I guess so.
I
Yeah.
feel like, I mean, obviously none of them hit for me, but if you're having to like rank them in terms of, their greatness to the genre, I mean, Swaggart's up there, and I think that like his name alone is one of the best ones. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy Swaggart. That to me sounds like if I was to make up a televangelist, I would have gone with Jimmy Swaggart. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? What about you, Drew?
I mean, it's close. I don't know if I got him in the top four or not. I'm thinking about it.
I mean, if we count Billy Graham, he's obviously the GOAT.
I
He
think
was
it's
sort of a
Graham.
different thing.
I think it's Graham, Olstein, Tammy Faye, and then it honestly might be Benny Hinn.
Yeah, Benny Hinn's up there. TD Jakes is a sleeper. He's OLI
TD
outside
Jakes
looking in, I
Didn't
think.
definitely on the list.
didn't the hilariously named Oral Roberts basically invent prosperity gospel though?
Sorta,
And
yeah.
he's got a college named after him. That's what
He's not a televangelist though, isn't that what we're doing?
Well, and the
yeah,
thing
I guess,
is
but
that
he's kind of predates that a little bit, don't he? He's
Right.
like so
Yeah, yeah.
he's such an OG that
Jerry
I only know
Falwell.
this because Falwell. I only know that about Oral Roberts because I'm about to be in Tulsa again in a couple. I think he's from Tulsa or somewhere in Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and I went there and found that out, and so I googled it to learn about him or whatever to see if I could, anything to say, and that's how I found that shit out about him. I didn't even know that stuff, but I remember I read he said that he was struggling early as a preacher and all this stuff, and he prayed to God and asked him what to do or whatever, and said, and I'm paraphrasing, but that a 100-foot tall vision of Jesus came to him and said, again paraphrasing, stunt on these hoes. That's what the 100-foot tall Jesus told. I spake unto thee, my child, stunt on these hoes. And he went and got, this part is true. I mean, he did say he had that vision, and also he then went and bought, and he couldn't afford it, bought a brand new Buick, and it's back when
Yeah.
Buicks hit, like a big
yeah.
hit in Buick. And he said, the Lord blessed him for that, and he knew he was on the righteous and true path, and that was
Right.
the beginning of prosperity gospel forevermore. I always thought it was funny too. I'm sure y'all probably had this, but like, he wanted to spread his gospel far and wide, and he had a huge ego and all that, and wanted to be famous. And it's like, on the one hand, I bet if he'd known that, like, kids in the backwater of Salina, Tennessee, 50 years later, were wearing hats that had his name on them,
Right.
or whatever, he would have been very excited. But maybe less so if he knew that they were exclusively wearing those hats for blowjob joke purposes,
Oral Bob?
like
You talking about Oral Bob?
Oral Roberts and Morehead State.
Morehead State,
Obviously,
yeah.
people had a lot of those hats back in my day when they found out about those places because they sound like, wiener jokes. So,
Man, yeah, I think so. He's definitely up there. I mean, when it's like in comedy,
Hold on.
like, go ahead.
I don't think Oral can be on it.
Okay. Because he wasn't
to
actually
me,
on
that's
TV.
like- well, to me, it's like, walk with me on this one. It's like Ben Franklin or somebody. It's like, okay, the dude he literally wasn't a president, so we can't put him on Mount Rushmore.
Right.
I think for me, it's like, yeah, without Oral Roberts, the Mount Rushmore of telemarketers doesn't exist, but he wasn't a televangelist. I said telemarketer
Right.
because I literally just got a spam call.
Well, there's also like, I can't even remember the dude's name, which sucks because I've read the book The Comedians 1,000 times, and Cliff talks about the dude who basically we've decided like he kind of invented stand up. Like he was doing vaudeville and then he just started being a monologuist, and it's like you go, well, stand up wouldn't exist without that person, but like there's no way he's better than Bill Burr. You know what I mean? So like it doesn't really matter. But like I feel like if you're going to go like the ones that have the most name recognition that just, get the people going, you probably got Jimmy Swaggart, Jerry Falwell, And I'm gonna obviously not just to be woke, but I got to throw a black guy in there just because the name is great. Creflo Dollar. That's one of the most fire names in the history of the world.
Wait,
And then, go ahead.
I was just say, if we're doing numbers, is TD Jakes bigger than Creflo?
Oh yeah, for sure. TD Jakes is definitely bigger than Creflo. And then again, Billy Graham was not really a televangelist like as it. I'm just like as we know them now. Like Billy Graham was more. He would do like these revivals, and I'm not saying that they wouldn't put them on TV, but he didn't have like a church that he was there every week, and also he was like respected by presidents and kings, whereas I don't think like I don't think any of these other motherfuckers were like Pat Robertson and shit, you know.
I don't know, man. Whose broadcasts and where I think you need to put some respect on.
Well, then he's
Billy
the. Well, I
Graham's
said
name.
then he's the GOAT. I mean, then he's without question the GOAT. But like Pat Robertson, he was doing more small screen stuff, I'd say. But like he was in everybody's home. He got syndicated. You know what I mean? The 700
Oh, I
Club
could
can't be
definitely entertain
denied.
an argument for Pat, and I think Falwell's a good one too. I don't think Swaggart's on my top 4. I mean, we're literally talking about
Yeah,
the top 4. That's got to be partially name recognition, partially numbers they did.
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be mostly name recognition, right? Because that's kind of the point. I realize
kind of the
that if
point.
you do Mount Rushmore like in sports, you're arguing over who's the best, not who's the most famous. But fame is a big part of
It's a big
this.
part of it. They couldn't possibly be there if they weren't
I'm
super
gonna add
famous.
Falwell to mine. I'm gonna go Graham, Falwell, Tammy Faye.
Mm-hmm. But see, that's interesting putting Tammy Faye up there because she was, you know, she's sort of like she's
got
like
a
a Scottie
musical.
Pippen or Steve Kerr.
She's got a musical.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, she is definitely a 5-point dumbass. But then I think most evil, or most
Kenneth
evil,
Copeland?
Kenneth Copeland. Yeah. Kenneth Copeland is like the Bill Lambier of televangelists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't even believe in demons, but he like literally looks like an actual demon or like he's possessed by it's comical how cartoonishly evil his like face be and the faces that he makes. Like it's wild.
Benny Hinn's sort of Larry Bird because he's a brown feller who's also Canadian who's made it in this game. You know what I mean?
I really like that analogy.
Thank you.
Can I say too, as far as the demons, I believe he's a demon. And I believe in demons the way I believe in sociopaths. You know that's not a word anymore.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's not in the.
What do you say? Emotionally handicapped or whatever.
Well, no, there's psychopaths, and then if they don't qualify for psychopaths, most psychologists now put on the personality spectrum disorder of either
narcissist,
narcissism,
NPD.
or what's the other one?
Borderline, BPD.
Borderline.
Yep.
Thank you. So my point is, I know that sociopaths aren't real because the people who make those words up decided it's not a thing anymore, but I still believe in them.
Those are sociopaths. They've done that.
Right. So demons aren't real, but I knew what the people who believed in that meant, and he's that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He is that.
Dude, that video of him when that lady asked him about his plane, like I've watched it a bunch, and like it's like his eyes go black, dog. Like there's a change in him when that happens. You know.
Well, I think he's a psychopath.
I think he's a psychopath. I think that dude. I mean, I think Billy Graham might have been a sweet dude. Maybe I don't fucking know. A lot of people like him, but I feel like to get to this level with what these dudes do and the fucking cognitive dissonance that you have to have, but also a lot of these dudes aren't dummies. So I just think you have to be a borderline psychopath to hit that hard in doing this. You know what I mean? Like, we know how hard it is to hit real hard as like an actor or comedian, but you got to do a different level in this because, again, you're sitting there preaching about Jesus while you got a $1 billion jet or whatever, knowing that that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, but that's part of the brilliance of Oral Roberts and the ones that came up with it and figured out how it hits.
That's why I said they're smart. Yeah.
It it really exploits what is apparently a fundamental characteristic of the American populace, which is it's that telling predominantly Christian, Americans that no, like Jesus wants you to hit.
Right.
Like there's never been a group of people, generally speaking, who are more open to that concept
Yeah.
than Americans in the past 100 years or so, or whatever. Like Americans
Right, like-
desperately, you know, the idea, because it's like they want to
Manifest
believe in
destiny.
Jesus, but they want to also hit, and people that are keep it real about Jesus are like, well, you know, he wasn't really down with that. And they're like, that's how you got like, you know, supply side, you know, Reagan Jesus that, you know, everybody loves so
and
much
we're the only
now.
religion that has
it was
that.
the undeniable what's the word I'm looking for? Inevitable conclusion of manifest destiny.
Yeah.
Manifest destiny is like God wants you to have this country and these resources because you're white and Christian. It was America's version of, I mean, I genuinely didn't mean to get into this, but I don't care that I am, of like what's going on in Israel right now, of like God's chosen people. It was the American version. Manifest destiny was the American version of you are the chosen people. Well, that kind of had to go there. Like we had to give up Christianity entirely or morph it into that. Which, in saying that, still, it was like genius to be the first one to exploit that.
Dude, I've been seeing some people,
Evil genius.
you know, because of like our immigration fiasco we got going on. I've seen people when asked about, you know, people make the notion of like, well, you know, we're all immigrants. We all came here and stole the Indians' land, and now I'm starting to see people, literally not trying to be ironic at all. They're like, I don't understand why people keep saying we stole the Indians' land. There's a huge difference between stealing something and conquering it. We conquered it. And I'm like, well, dude, I could make the argument that Bonnie and Clyde conquered some banks. You know what I mean? So like, what's the fucking difference?
dude.
It's like, no, it's not stealing so long as you murder everybody when you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, they just, they need some kind of justification for that very apparent hypocrisy. So I guess that's just what they've landed on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I just
because
don't
what
see,
else is there?
I just don't see why you can't be like, yeah, that was really wrong that those people did that, but we're here now. We didn't do it, and we're here, and we got to live, and so, you know, we'll try this. Like, I don't see why you have to.
Well, they want to be able to ship
because-
out their like children and stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, the immigrants' children, you know, people that
Right.
were brought here as babies or kids or whatever. They also want to be able to send them away. So you know,
They also
have to,
need desperately to believe in a myth that serves their own current worldview. I think it's something that keeps coming up for me. It came up to me weirdly with my own brother, who was kind of like making fun of this guy who, now that he's out, still wants to be involved in some of the white supremacy gang stuff.
Mhm.
He's like, what's this dude on about? And I'm like,
Right.
what, you think people don't believe in stuff? Like, just
Right.
because you didn't. So I'm getting at that with this of like, they need to believe that their ancestors were good. I don't know why. I don't know why it bothers them so, but they believed in their whole life, in their heart, that America is the greatest country on earth and that its foundation was laid through righteous indignation towards British monarchy and evil and nothing else. And so that's why they pretend like slavery wasn't bad or didn't happen in some cases. And that's all this is, too, in my opinion. It's like conquering and stealing. What's the difference? I've decided one's good.
One's good. If
I've
you
decided one's acceptable.
Yeah.
Because in a conquering, you know, you had a choice. Like stealing, it's almost like they're saying, well, stealing's cowardly. You do it in the night. What we did was march in here and, you know, and of course that's not what happened. I mean, literally our immune system is the only reason it happened the way that it did. I'm not saying through technology we wouldn't eventually did it anyway, but as we moved west, there's plenty of writings where everyone's like, I don't know, it seemed like people used to be here. We don't know what happened. We'd already blanketed them to death.
It's just so hard for me to wrap my head around the thought process of those people. Cause like I'll have, you know, some of my conservative buddies or whatever, and they're like, oh, you just got white guilt or whatever. I'm like, dude, no, I don't. I was like, I don't feel guilty at all. Like, I don't feel guilty. I understand. Right. But I'm like,
Every time someone throws white guilt at you, they would feel it if they believed what you
course.
believed.
Yeah.
So
Cause
they
like,
can't believe it.
I'm white. I'm very like, I mean, this could sound bad if you just clipped it out. Like, I'm thankful for that. Obviously, if you look around, it's definitely the better one to be, right? But I didn't choose it, and I do my best to not not acknowledge the fact that it is an advantage. And I feel
That's the part they're going to clip out, Corey. I do my best not to acknowledge it.
Well, I think it's rude not to. Like, if you go, the people that go, oh
you
no, there's no such thing as white. But you know what I'm saying.
You said you don't acknowledge that. It's
right. My bad. But like, I just don't get why. Like, it's so easy for me to be like, hey man, the people that looked like me back in the day did some really shitty stuff. I wasn't there. I just happened to be born, but like, I'm not going to feel bad, but like going so far as to say there's no advantage to this. And like, I don't know. It's fucking crazy. Like you're right. They're the ones that feel bad and they're projecting.
Yeah, man. That's all the internet is just projection.
That don't hit.
My favorite one lately is, you just support Palestine because it's like hip or cool, and it's like if you listen to those people who are saying that, almost every time, if you look at how they've acted on social media, you kind of realize, oh, that's why you would have supported Palestine, right. And if you ever switch teams, it's why you will, and that's what you're projecting onto me right now. It's all the internet is. It's not great. Anyway, thanks everyone for following us.
Well, I used to, circling back to the preacher stuff a little bit, I guess. I used to think that about, and we've talked about it before too, about like, Christians, when they would say to me over the years things like, well, but without the Bible, how do you know not to like lie, steal, rape, kill people, all this stuff, whatever. And I was always like, you just don't because those things are bad. Like I don't want to be raped and killed. So I'm not going to rape and kill somebody else. Like, I don't need the Bible to tell me that. And I always thought it's like, does that imply that if you didn't have the Bible telling you that, then you would do those things? Yes. But I know, and it does seem to imply that, but I've heard Reformed Christians or whatever you want to call them over the years say things like, that was just a thing they'd always been told as a Christian growing up their whole life, that's how it worked or whatever. And that they like remembered a moment where it occurred to them, like, oh, right. I guess you don't have, they just never really questioned that it worked that way. And then one day they were like, oh yeah, I guess you don't have to be told by God not to do those things. You just don't do them. So it's like, maybe they're not all just temporarily restrained rapists, murderers or anything Christian.
I don't think that, but the people who use that as an argument, it feels like they are. You know what I mean? The people who say it that loud, it's like, damn, it sounds like you really want to,
Mm-hmm.
Me and Andy were actually talking about psychopaths the other day. Don't worry about why. But there's an interesting thing on Reddit.
Did Roscoe kill a bird?
No. There's an interesting thing on Reddit, though, where people will go in there and claim to be that, or they used to claim to be sociopaths, and then they'd be like, ask me anything. And there's like an interesting aspect of that with like, there are people who claim that they have none of that they're psychopaths. They have no guilt. They have no shame. They don't care. And they're like, I don't kill because I don't want to. Like it just doesn't. I wouldn't feel bad if I did it, but I don't want to do it. It's messy. I might get in trouble, like et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's more akin to what those people have probably, some of them deep in their heart of hearts, think, Trae, or feel is like, no, but the things I do want to do, I need a book to tell me not to. So no, I wouldn't be raping and killing, but I'd be stealing. Like the thing, like, you know what I mean? If it weren't for the book,
But I'd say with them, it's because of the law in America, not the Bible. Like if there wasn't a law against stealing, it was only in the Bible, then they would do it. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yeah.
Because there's plenty. We sin all the time. Like people, like Christians, they'll in one breath they'll say every sin is the same, but then the other is like, well, as long as it wasn't the 10 Commandments, you're good. And it's like, no, you do all the other sins that the Bible tells you not to do. So like, what's the fucking difference?
Yeah, dude.
It's just like with it's like so many people. It's like, the only good abortion is my abortion, like hardcore pro-life, women and stuff, or people that pay for abortions for their rich daughters and shit like that. But that's the only justified ones. Like people that are on food stamps, like I need my food stamps. Yeah. I'm not a lazy piece of shit. It's like that with sin, the sins you're talking about. It's like, well, my sins are like, I can rationalize them; those are justified.
Hell,
but other people are going to hell.
Girlfriend,
right? Yeah,
raw.
But you're talking about people going on Reddit being like, I'm a psychopath and here's how I handle it. You guys both, y'all both watched the TV show The Expanse?
Yes,
Yeah,
I haven't
loved
finished
it.
it, but yes, I
Love it. Read the books too. I did, and the character, one of my all-time favorite characters in all of fiction is from that series, and it's Amos, because Amos, his
Yeah.
whole thing is he's a sociopath or psychopath or whatever, but he knows it, and he knows that that isn't good, so he
Right. Dexter
has to have a moral center to guide him. Like, he keeps himself around good people because he understands that about himself, and he wants to be good, but he can't help that he's broken, and he knows he's broken. All this shit. It's just brilliant. I just fucking love that
actor
series.
rules too.
The act Wes Chatham or Chatham,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he says it, but he's the fucking shit. That performance is all time goated for me, as the kids say. But I don't know. I assume there's at least some of them like that in real life. Maybe, who know they have that and like want to be better.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think they're not. I think they're not psychopaths. I think they're probably BPD or another thing. But there's definitely people like that. I mean,
Mhm.
according to, unless there's just like people who are cosplaying as that on Reddit, like you can find people who like claim that, and they'll say things like, "Well, I'm motivated by the notion," like it. They're almost like, sometimes I think I'm just a more honest person. Like, I'm trying to be good because it gets me stuff. It gets people I admire to like want to fuck with me. And then you go, well, damn, is that kind of how a lot of us like? Do you know what I mean? Like, where's that line of like,
Right.
I just want to kind of be honest versus, well, if I lie and cool, good people find out, they won't fuck with me, you know?
Right. I want to be a good person because it seems like in society that's what's revered. And it's like, well, however you get there,
Yeah, but
however
that
you
even
fucking get-
seems less and less true now. I
right.
feel
That's
like
you're very
100%.
correct.
Well,
you
and that's
know,
bad.
so
That's very
it's very
bad.
bad. No, I know.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of like a place I'm at, like a meltdown I'm having. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say with our continued support of Israel. Where, well, you guys saw it because it was in the thread this morning. Me and Smart Mark are going back and forth, and he's like, "Yeah, this is for resources, but every genocide has been for resources." And I'm like, "Well, it seems like we used to keep 3 degrees separation between us and the abject murder,
Mhm.
and now we're not doing that, and that's got to be worse." Like, there was a certain hypocrisy to overthrowing and planting coups via the CIA and killing a bunch of people in third world South America for their oil, and that's evil, and I'm not backing off from that. It seems like, though, trying to hide that was at the very least good
Right.
for numbers. You know, like,
Right.
well, we're going to kill
Because-
less if we have to cover it up.
Because
even if it still is evil and hypocritical, by having to cover it up, that takes resources and effort. If we don't cover it up anymore, we just say, nah, it's not what you think. That's like way less energy.
Well, because by covering it up, the insinuation was like, we know that the majority of the people who elect us will not like this. And now they're like, actually, the majority of people who elect us,
Yeah.
this hit for them.
Well, to be fair, to be
That's true.
completely fair, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm all moral decay be happening for sure. But like this particular genocide, there are a lot of other obviously like mitigating factors to it that make people more inclined to be on board with it. There's the whole
Religion.
like Christian end times fucking
Yeah.
shit where it's like this hits for them that it's happening over there. There's ever since 9/11, the Islamophobia and stuff in this country where it's like people are just kind of on board with, doing whatever over there where all the Muslims are at
believe in
because they want to kill all us, we're told. So fuck them. Like there's a lot of, so it's like, it's not your just garden variety genocide. It could be any genocide and Americans still might not give a fuck. But with this one, there's like other elements to it that make Americans like want to get down with it, or more,
Or at the very least, not care.
yeah, right. Or more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just a perfect storm of, shitty genocidal factors, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
genocide don't hit, and we've said it.
mhm.
I guess I'm just saying that, like, making evil people pretend to be good is still a good thing.
Yeah,
Like,
we
on
definitely
whatever
lost
scale.
that.
Oh, dude,
Like
like
on whatever scale we're talking about, that is like the fact that they just have to spend energy tricking us is good.
Right. Like the whole racism thing with Trump and all that, like for most of our younger lives, plenty of people were super racist, but they like knew they had to pretend not to be in public or they'd be ostracized because American society wouldn't stand for that. And now they know that isn't true. In fact, they'll be celebrated for, being that way publicly, especially on the internet and stuff. So
Dude.
And that's led more people to do it because they want to hit on the internet too. So it's like propagating and spreading now. And it's a very, very, very bad thing that I don't know the way out of.
I sent y'all one of these things, this fucking piece of shit Benny Johnson put up, but there was another one I didn't, and I wanted to mention
Man,
it on
that guy.
here. Dude, man. Well, he was there at, which I just found out about Alligator Alcatraz today, and it was because I was on the internet and saw him. He's there at the grand opening, and they're treating it like it's a fucking Kid Rock bar and grill. It's like he's there, all your, everybody from the peanut gallery's there, and they're all tweeting and stuff, and it's like this celebration. And he does this video where he shows this hat that he got for Alligator Alcatraz. He's like, and he said, this prison has merch. How awesome is that? And dude, there's been a lot of, like, obviously this whole thing is sickening, and I'm not saying that this is particularly more sickening than anything, but for some reason, this is the one that really actually made me physically sick to my stomach and finally be like, oh God, like how the fuck are you posting a picture of prison merch and thinking somehow history's going to shine great on me? This is going to look awesome.
I mean, ICE itself posted a AI image of alligators wearing cute little ice hats, and it said like these are our welcome our new deputies, everybody. The alligator, and so that's them being like, doesn't it hit that maybe alligators will eat people that we forcibly removed their homes and take it? They're like celebrate. Well, hell, and even this morning, like Trump got asked about. So is the implication that people might get eaten by these alligators? He's like, well, you never know. Maybe it's like snakes are fast, alligators, we got to teach them how to run. You don't run like this. You run like you do the serpentine thing or whatever. And it's like, so I mean, it would hit for them for Mexicans to get eaten by alligators, apparently.
And just the ones that are the women and children,
Right.
To be a little dark about that, I saw that. I find Trump still oddly refreshing.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Well, I don't mean it was funny in this particular instance. He has been very funny before. I didn't think that was funny. It was more like, well, kind of what you were saying, Trae. It's like the flip side of that coin about how you used to have to pretend. I'm so sick of people who just want blood, who are just like pining for torture and evil, to say like security and justice and law and order and safety. And it's like, Trump's like, we make America great. We get a fucking gator to chase a Mexican and put that on TV. And it's like, it's weirdly refreshing that he doesn't even hide that. But it's weirdly refreshing to them because they felt shackled by the inability to say, I want a fucking gator to eat a Mexican. And they've had to say all these words like safety, border control, whatever. That's why they like him. Is they're like, God damn, that's what I've always wanted to say. And we should kill all those people.
No, I agree with you. In so many regards. Like the other day, for instance, when Trump was asked on like the White House lawn, he was like, what's the deal with Gaza? What's going on over there? And I'm paraphrasing, but he said something. He's like, you've got these countries that have been fighting for years, and frankly, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And like a lot of people blew up over that. And I was like, honestly, that's the best thing he could have said, in my opinion. Like that was not that bad, because to me, that's how you should be talking about this situation, instead of like, the Democrats are like, what language? I was like, yeah, but at least he said, that's how it be. He didn't just go, this is unconscionable. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't like the guy, but like, I ain't mad that he said these countries don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's the least of his crimes.
Well, what we're saying is he's telling his truth, why the fucking Democrats are owned by APEC, and they're desperate for any way to critique him without losing that money.
Right.
Everyone should die, including me. I hope they drop the bomb.
Y'all, summer is here, and that means more sun, more light, more time to do all the things that you couldn't do in the winter. That's what makes summer so... Really? I'm trying to do an ad read here, buddy. You know something you shouldn't have to worry about all summer? That's cooking. That's why I love Factor. I mean, I love cooking, don't get me wrong, but I'm busy. What with having a child and a busy schedule, I can't always cook everything, and I love Factor, especially for lunch. And I'm one of those people that always thought that like, oh, dude, there's no way that any of these ready-to-make box meals are going to be good. And that is until I ran into Factor. My personal favorite, there's like this French onion chicken one. There's like a honey mustard chicken one, and like a salmon one, I think, that I just absolutely love. And having a child, as I do, it just makes things so much easier. At lunch, I know that I'm going to get something that has the exact amount of protein that I want. If I'm going that route, if it's keto and I'm going that route, you know what I mean? They even do the vegetarian stuff for when I am going that route. It's not often, but I do it. They also have guilt-free snacks and desserts. And if there's anything I love more than dessert, it's not having any guilt about it. There's 45 weekly menu options. They show up. You can eat them at breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. They're ready to go. You just put them in the microwave. Boom, you got a wonderful meal. They're also crafted by chefs and they're dietitian approved. So really no excuse. Get started at Factor Meals. God bang. Get started at factormeals.com/wellred50 off and use the code wellred50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Buddy. He wants a Factor meal. I don't know what to tell you. That's code WellRED50 off at factormeals.com/WellRED50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/WellRED50 off. Tell him how good it is, buddy.
Right there.
Speaking of Trump, I wanted to bring something up to y'all real quick. Just ask if you'd heard about it because it got passed around on TikTok and stuff. One of my patrons pointed it out to me. And it's just like, y'all ever heard that story about, it's true, about how there was like a novelist in the early 1900s who put out this little novella about a ocean liner called the Titan, which was said to be unsinkable. Now these rich people on it, and it hit an iceberg and it sunk. And that was like 2 years later, Titanic happened. Have y'all heard the it's not new, it's been around for a couple years, but but for
the
Trump,
Medicine Man Trump one?
Yeah, an author from the late 1800s, early 1900s called Ingersoll Lockwood, who wrote the Baron Trump novels. It was literally the character's name, and it was like he was Baron Trump was like this little rapscallion, right, who got into all these misadventures and stuff, and said that he lived in a gigantic building named after himself. He often bragged about his massive brain, and he had a penchant for making personalized insults for people he didn't like, right? The fucking Sleepy Joe and Meatball Ron and all that. And then it said, and obviously, you know,
dumbass Ron Bolton.
Yeah, in the 80s, Trump, the pseudonym he used was John Barron. He later named his son Barron Trump. And then that same author wrote another novel that doesn't have the Baron Trump character in it, but it's another novel by the same author from the same period called The Last President, in which New York City is riven by protest following the shocking victory in a presidential election of a populist candidate who later brings on the downfall of the American Republic.
That's good.
So, yeah. And so, you know, the way the internet be and all that stuff, apparently what some people have done, to me, it's just like that story about the book, that Titanic book I said earlier, where it's like, that's wild, you know, ain't that wild? That make a good episode, you know, and I don't really have anything else to say about it, but like people on the internet, because it's becoming even more so on the left now too, where it's like everyone has to make everything a fucking like conspiracy theory all the time or whatever, you know. And with this one, it's apparent that, you know, the Trump family, that they literally have access to an actual time machine.
Yeah.
That they are, you know, time travelers. And I don't know, you know, the motivations or whatever, or what they're, you know, where they're going when they get finished
fix
here.
Their fucking jeans so they don't look like a catcher's mitt.
Yeah,
or break nobody broke Jesse Owens' leg before the Olympics. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
maybe they tried.
There was
that ass.
This is not that, but it's a similar thing. There was an episode of, I think it was either Twilight Zone or Outer Limits. I get the episodes confused sometimes because they're very similar. Both hit real hard. And it was like in the Old West, this dude named Trump comes to the city, and I think he was actually from like the East Coast or whatever, and everyone fucking loves him, and he sells them this like tonic, and it ends up being snake oil or whatever, and like hypnotizes and kills them all or some shit like that. There's a couple things like that, but again, yeah, like with the whole. Go ahead.
Here's the list of things the Simpsons have predicted.
Right. Yep.
President Trump, 2000.
Yeah.
They had Trump serve president in 2016, and then in 2021, for whatever reason,
Right.
Disney buying Fox, faulty voting machines, the Siegfried and Roy tiger attack. All right, that one. I don't know why that's on the list. We all predicted that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. That tiger
Sorry,
went tiger.
Mm-hmm.
The Ebola outbreak, the Higgs boson, the
Higgs
horse meat
boson.
scandal. Yeah.
Nice.
The horse meat scandal, whatever that is. The NSA scandal. A FIFA scandal. There's a lot more, but some of them I've just got a list, and the list, it's like unclear to me what they mean. Apparently, it predicted Kamala Harris running somehow.
Well, right now, it's been wrapped up, I think, but there was a controversy in Hollywood, like very, very recently. There's a new horror movie coming out with Dave Franco and Allison Brie called Together. And from the like posters and stuff, it looks like these two it's like a body horror movie where two people start to get fused together into like a mutant beast thing or whatever. I don't know. But anyway,
those two together, I'd pay a lot of money to see them fused.
So apparently, shortly after the marketing stuff for this came out, a guy who had made a movie before that didn't get, it was like a little indie horror that didn't get seen, came out publicly, and I don't blame him in retrospect, but apparently, I don't remember the name of the other movie from like 2020 or 2021 or something like that, but there was another very like micro budget indie horror movie with literally that exact same premise. Not only that, but that script at that time got offered to Dave Franco and Allison Brie for the leads, right? And they didn't do it then. And apparently in a climactic part of the movie, they both those movies, because the new one, I was going to say it's in the script, but it's filmed. It's about to come out now, so people have seen it. But they literally use the same obscure Spice Girls song, apparently, from like 30 years ago, right? The exact same song at basically the same point in the movie. And so this dude, was like, I mean, clearly they have stolen this from me,
right, yeah.
Like they saw it, whatever. And, but it's been proven since, because the guy who wrote this one, he originally wrote the script, because it takes fucking forever to get anything made, even if you ever do. He originally wrote the script and registered it with the WGA, so he has proof that he wrote the script in this iteration, like 2 years before that guy wrote the other one. So he couldn't have possibly stolen it from him, but it's still that similar and like that many. And it's like,
I'm a little suspect of the proof, man.
Well, I mean, I don't think the WGA, this dude, it's not like he's like a big play. If the WGA was like fabricating shit to exonerate this dude falsely or whatever, I mean, that'd be a pretty bad look for one of the biggest unions in Hollywood. Like they were
weird thing to do it on.
First of all, how would they get caught? And it wouldn't be for him; it'd be for money coming from somebody else. Now that the movie's already made. See, but now I'm what you're saying. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist. But I have there's two parts to this theory, and then there's a separate theory. So it's that, in my mind, or it could just be like somebody went in and did that. Like, what's their system?
Right. Yeah, for registering things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
dude, I've seen Mr. Robot. You can get into stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a much simpler. Evils on one side. It's just like one, or you know what I mean? Get a hacker to go in there. There is a script from this dude because he's been around forever. You go in there and you change what was registered.
Plug that one in.
Yeah. And then my other one is this dude stole it. The guy who the hit dog's hollering, he stole it and was like, yeah, but I stole it so long ago. Maybe I can get away with it.
Right. No, that did. Yeah. But imagine though, if you're that guy and you didn't, but then people started to think that like you were convinced you had your idea stolen, and it's in a much this movie's it's definitely going to be much bigger. It's getting rave reviews and all this stuff, and seeing that if you're that other guy, but then also if it ended up people being like, actually, I think this motherfucker's the one who stole it, and you get like, I would
lose my mind.
Yeah, you
talk
about
needs to be a movie.
That is,
I would go insane
on a smaller level with jokes at least twice.
Yeah,
I've been accused of stealing my own joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been accused of stealing my whole like thing, like my,
right. It's happened
like
to me
from
with
Brent
just like memes,
or whoever.
But yeah, right. Yeah. Oh God, I would lose my fucking absolute mind. I did. That does sound good though. I like body horror movies, and Alison Brie's hot as fuck. So
I have no ill feelings towards Dave Franco as a person, but as a concept, that whole thing just disgusts me. Hey, there's a volatility to his more talented and hotter brother. Let's just take Dave. There's no one else around. I
Dave hits
cannot
though.
believe Dave Franco. He's fine. He's the most fine motherfucker that's ever been fine. And again, no ill will towards him. It's such, to me, obvious nepotism and name recognition. You
Sure.
can't tell me there's not someone hotter and a better actor than Dave Franco who'd do that.
But now,
it
in
sounds
this
like James
particular,
Franco.
in this particular, I've never seen Dave Franco in a serious role, so I don't know. But like in the comedies he's been in and stuff, I've always enjoyed him. But yeah, you might be right. I've never really thought of him as anything other than just like a
suggesting he's
player
bad,
in the
Corey.
Jonah Hill world.
I'm not suggesting he's bad. Are you telling me you've seen him in any role and thought this dude should be opposite Allison fucking Brie?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I agree with you now now that I'm thinking about him in a leading role, I feel that way. But every time he's been in like a Seth Rogen vehicle, I have enjoyed him. But yeah, no, I'm with you.
Dave
But
Franco. I want to be very clear on that.
I also didn't really care for James Franco in serious stuff. Like, I also just wanted him next to Seth Rogen, too. Like, both Francos, I kind of need just next to Rogen. That's kind of what I want them to do, is just be near him. But, yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you.
Hollywood's trying to put him next to the other Rogen, clearly.
I think Dave Franco's a real burgeoning Casey Affleck. That's what I think.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine.
Future Academy Award winner.
That's
I don't know.
okay.
Casey Affleck did win an Academy Award at some point, right?
Casey Affleck is a very good actor.
No, he's great. Yeah, I know. I was being a smart ass.
Casey Affleck great is it's like, imagine if Ben Affleck we had all that talent. Now put it in an ugly dude, so it's believable that he's a whiny piece of shit.
Dude,
that's all that happened with him.
I know Casey did some horrible things allegedly, but he is a fucking
that's right.
actor.
I did, but I'd forgotten. It's weird how some people like.
It just Shannon Sharp. Where'd that go?
Sticks, and other times it doesn't. For no,
Yeah.
I say no apparent reason, but is it? I was gonna say, does it come down to like the right publicist or PR team or whatever work? But it's like all these people are super rich, so why wouldn't they all have anything? Why wouldn't they all have the good team if it's that?
Sometimes it's luck, man. So the Shannon Sharp thing, I'm gonna explain that from a lawyer's perspective. One of two things happened. She was exaggerating, clipping one part. It was some kind of kink thing, and she's lying. She just wanted money. She got the money, and now it's gone. Or she was telling the truth, but she also just wanted the money. She got the money, and it's gone. Right. Then sometimes you run up to a victim. I don't want to frame it that way because it sounds like the perpetrator is the victim. Sometimes a victim is like, screw that. I don't want it to go away. So I think it's just luck, man.
Right.
But then there's people like fucking Indian Randy. Who am I trying to think of?
Aziz Ansari.
Aziz Ansari, where it's like, that's just bad luck. Maybe some racism. Also,
that was timing for him.
That was timing.
He was also kind of annoying. I think the people who needed to defend him, the people who would, like the edgelord types, were like, nah, fuck that guy. You know what I mean?
That was unfortunate because if I remember correctly, it just seemed like they had a weird date.
They had a real weird date where he was like very weird and gross and aggressive. I've said this before on this podcast, so we don't have to rehash it. His problem to me, at least partially, was his whole brand. I mean, he literally had just put out a book called Dating as a Feminist. And so this kind of gets to what I was just saying. The people who would defend him and what he did on that date weren't fans of his.
Right. Yeah.
Fans turned on him because he had built this thing.
Betrayed them.
That's also what happened. I mean, obviously much lower scale, but he had a little moment at the time. But that's what happened to old Kilstein. Jamie Kill is a similar thing. You know, he I don't remember exactly what all the allegations were with him or whatever, but when it happened, it was like 10 times worse because his whole thing was not doing that, you know,
right.
Being a super woke feminist and shit. And that was his entire following. So those people, of course, were like, well, nah, fuck you, dog. And that was that.
And then like the legions of Skank fans were like, fuck that.
No, yeah. I don't blame him. Drew, speaking of you being a lawyer and stuff, I did want to ask you this because I just saw this thing in the Diddy trial and I don't know what to make of it. So I wanted you to know. The headline is Diddy's trial takes dramatic turn 2 hours into deliberations as jury sends note to judge about a disobedient juror. So 2 hours in, this is from Yahoo News. So 2 hours in the process, the judge gets a note from the foreman reporting that one of the jurors was unlikely to follow the instructions that the judge had laid out. What in your mind does that say? I'm sure it could be a lot of things.
It can be a lot of things. There is someone in there who's vehemently disagreeing with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that is, hey, the judge instructed us to do this way, and you're saying things like, well, I read on the internet,
Right.
Or someone's just bucking up, and this is the foreman's way to try to get them in line. So that's like the range of what's definitely happening is one person is going against the group. Whether this foreman is actually reporting behavior that is against the rules, like, guys, please let me just show you what I found on my phone.
Right.
Which would go against instructions.
Of
That'd
course.
be like the worst one I could think of for all parties, because it'd be an instant mistrial. You'd have to start over. The victims would have to go through it again. You know what I mean? And all the way to this dude just won't vote the way we want him to vote, and so fuck him. And then in the middle, it's things like, I don't know what all. I haven't filed it. They're very specific jury instructions. Here's a lighter one. The judge told us to ignore that piece of testimony,
and he can't,
because the question was asked improperly. There was an objection. It was sustained. Well, he referenced it.
Right.
And he's like, I don't like that the judge told us not to worry about that. That makes me uncomfortable. What don't y'all think? And then this, you got to snitch from the foreman, which, depending on how you look at it, is a good or a bad thing.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, like, is there any scenario when it's like where it's like, oh, Diddy's people got to this motherfucker? Like, is that a thing? Okay.
Oh,
because that's where my conspiratorial brain immediately went like, oh, Diddy's people got to him. But then you saying it like that, it's like, well, Occam's razor. It's probably just what you said.
Well, my brain went to, just because it's a very common thing, jurors wanting information they're not entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
And then a certain type of mind, I have this type of mind, they would never let me on a jury, especially because I'm a lawyer. But even if I wasn't, as soon as you're told, like, ignore that, or don't consider that, a part of you's like,
well, what do you mean?
Why?
I think that every time I see it in a show, they're like, strike that from the record. And I'm like, well, you can't strike it from my fucking brain. I heard it. I don't give a good goddamn whether they asked it wrong.
Lawyers know that, and they'll pull some shit. I've pulled some shit before.
Right. They're like, I know that it'll get exactly, but it's in their head now. Yeah.
And the state will pull it all the fucking time. I mean, the state does it. The state does it when they walk them in, dude. All right, Luigi's lawyer, the sweater vest. I can't begin to tell you how smart that is, but also, if we're all going to highlight how smart it is, how we all then have to look at when a poor-ass motherfucker gets marched in orange with the handcuffs on, and the jury sees him like that, that is a signal that he is a criminal, that he has done this, that he is dangerous, that he is scary. So, constantly attorneys are putting stuff in front of the jury's minds, in their brain, sometimes appropriately and sometimes inappropriately. And, you get a guy or a gal who's somewhat aware of that. I could see it, but it could be wild. I mean, it could be wild.
Who gets to make that decision on whether the perp gets to walk in street clothes or orange?
The judge. I mean, if you raise it as someone on the defense side, it has to be raised.
I was about to say, because I would never want my person.
Well, when we're talking about an actual trial, usually, like a lot of times we'll see on TV someone getting sentenced.
Right, their arraignment or whatever.
And they've already, like, if they're being sentenced, that means they've been found guilty.
Sure.
But a lot of times the defendant is in regular clothes because the attorney has demanded it and the judge has correctly decided, well, I'd hate for that to be the reason this thing goes all the way to the end and then we get appealed or whatever. Just let the fucker put on some khakis.
Yeah. Man, nowadays with people having cell phones and the internet being such a thing, like I can't imagine the dramatic shift in having to keep your jurors in fucking line. Like that has to be a goddamn nightmare.
Well, yeah, I wanted to say two things, and I'll touch on that with one of them. I wanted to say too, going back to what you read, I mean, it's possible this person just like won't stop hitting on people.
That'd be hilarious.
He
gets charged with sexual assault in the
fucking
jury.
Jury, yeah.
He's like, man, can we watch?
Putting you in the mood or what?
Hey, can we watch that clip with her titties out one more time? Yeah. I just want to make sure I got it.
Got it. Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna say, I think I forgot it. Never mind. Oh, you're talking about keeping them in line. We got to keep in mind that a lot of those instructions or questions, the actual question is like, have you seen anything that has caused you to make up your mind or swayed you so far?
Ain't that the whole point of
It-
court?
My point being, like, you can sequester the jurors and you can tell them they're not allowed to have their phones, but unless it's like a real, I guess, problematic situation, like, you're allowed to know that P Diddy got arrested before you get on P Diddy's jury. Like, it's not like we need to find 12 people who have no idea who he is,
Right.
or have no idea what the allegation is. It's a question of, has it actually like swayed you so far?
Right.
Now, no one can answer that honestly about themselves.
Well, also too, is there a way where it's like, we really don't want a hung jury because we want to get the fuck out of here, and this guy's giving us problems. We want to wrap this shit up, and this
That
guy's
was what I
asking
was
too
saying
many
was on the other end of
questions.
that spectrum.
Yeah.
Was the foreman is going to the judge and saying, this dude's breaking the rules, and he's not.
Right.
It's very possible
He's just
that
like,
he's
I've
just
got
like-
an opinion that's not y'all's.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't do it. Or he did.
You got to say, because that has to be, surely to God, everybody's leaning guilty in this thing.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a worry for the state, and a lot of times it's the only goal of the defense is just get a hung jury.
Right.
Do
Yeah,
that
right.
once or twice, eventually you're going to get a better deal.
So, like, I don't know what are the statistics, like, off the top of your head, you think, and, like, how many times, like, if there is a mistrial, blank out of 10, it ends up going the other way because of that. You know what I mean?
The other way, what do you mean?
Well, like, everybody thinks that, he's definitely guilty, right? But then they get a mistrial, and then because of the mistrial, shit happens, and they end up getting off the hook.
More often than not, what happens is that if there's a mistrial, you probably will get a better plea offer than you got before the first trial.
Is that just because they don't want to have to do the whole fucking thing again?
I mean,
That's
I
a part of
wouldn't.
it, but it's
I
also
wouldn't either.
like, we'll neither do the witnesses.
Right.
Right.
The witnesses, I mean, I would assume a lot of times that the suspect or whatever, the person on trial, like, it just feels to me like no one would want to
Of course not.
have to go. But I mean, if you feel like,
You
oh,
didn't do
this
it.
version of the trial ends with me in jail for life,
Mm-hmm.
then you might be amenable to the idea of giving it another go. But
Right.
generally speaking, I would imagine most people don't want to do that.
So a lot of times there's a better offer tendered. And then in smaller cases, like, dude, in misdemeanor court, if I beat one like that, yeah, it's never coming back. They're not going to refile. They're going to tell themselves as prosecutors, well, he'll be back. This motherfucker won't be able to help himself. In a big profile case like this, I mean, dog, they got to run it back if they can't get him to take a deal, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But they may not feel that way. They may feel the opposite for that exact reason. They may be like, all this profile, all this money we've spent, imagine we get beat again.
What do you think a plea deal in this situation looks like? Like, what would they be offering Diddy?
At this point,
Yeah.
that he would take, or just like, where do I
That
think
he-
their heads are at?
Both what they would offer and maybe what he would take.
He would probably take something where he could pretend like he just did it to get out of it and he doesn't have to go to prison.
Right. Oh, so you think there's
Uh,
a scenario where he gets a plea deal where he don't go to jail?
I'm not saying that that's a scenario. I'm saying that's what I think he would take.
Yeah, right.
It depends on why this got fucked up, if it gets fucked up. If they slam dunked it and they just can't figure out why one person was going not guilty, I bet they run it back, dude.
Right.
I haven't been following it much, but that makes me think the prosecution's doing an okay job. Because there's nothing the media loves more than the shit on an attorney.
It's kind of wild that in the age we live in with, I guess it's because there's 24-hour news and there's so much in the fucking world going on that, I really haven't heard that many things from the Diddy trial. Whereas like OJ, when there was like, no fucking cell phone cameras and no Twitter, it's like you heard every day. That's all you heard about shit. But I guess there also wasn't like,
Do you not think the OJ trial, fallout, shows, and movies aren't a big part of why that is the
Yeah.
case, though?
sure,
Both in
I
terms
just,
of the court and the prosecutors taking direct control over it, but then also his lawyers. Like
yeah.
Diddy's lawyers probably have a lot to lose if this thing gets played out too much in the media. Diddy certainly has a lot to lose. So my guess is for competing reasons, for competing interests, everyone's a little bit motivated not to redo the OJ trial.
Yeah.
And
Also,
then,
murder
and
hits
then in
harder.
terms of the media, yeah, dude, he's not as big of a star, weirdly.
Yeah. It's
And
not as well, like it's not as big of a shock. Like everybody's always assumed Diddy was a piece of shit, but OJ was like the darling, you know.
Right.
right. And then also think about who all's been implicated and who
Right.
continue to be like. And you know, if you're a mid-level reporter, you can see that and be like, "Damn, Kevin Hart," you know, like this is exactly why we need to be reporting it.
Right.
But then, you know, you're that guy's boss at TMZ, and you're like, yeah, but every time we do this, it's calculated.
Right.
Because we want access. So
speaking of Kevin Hart, did you see where Dave Chappelle slammed fucking DJ Khaled for being silent about Palestine?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, what is Khaled? Is Khaled Palestinian or something?
Khaled's Palestinian, which is the biggest one I've ever seen. Without question, sorry,
God,
but
damn, man, motherfucker needed 2 tents.
Yeah, man, I was not. I did
Heard
not
he was hiding a
expect.
bag of flour in his chin. Okay, I'll stop.
I did not expect Chappelle to. We'll talk about DJ Khaled, but also take that stance.
Chappelle's been on that stance since pretty early on. He's really tight with Mo Amer. I don't know if I'm saying Mo's last name right, who has the show Mo on Netflix. And he has, I mean, dude, I feel like even like right in the, maybe at the tail end, but definitely in the crux of the Dave Chappelle zeitgeist moment he's been having. I mean, it was almost like, this isn't true, but it was almost like trannies are weird and free Palestine.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great point. But because most of the people I know who were like, hell yeah, Dave Chappelle speaks the truth. Trannies aren't real. They are also very pro-Israel. And so you'd think that they would really be shitting on Chappelle for this whole thing. But I guess that's just how much they don't like trans people, as they're willing to forgive.
I think that smartly, the people who make something like that news chose not to make it news when Dave Chappelle came out as that. Just like Theo. Theo should be getting absolutely grilled right now. I think that...
What'd he do?
Theo's been all over free Palestine. This is a genocide. What the fuck are we doing? I think very, very intelligently, the media machine that usually goes after Hollywood when they do that is like, bad move. The more people who know that Theo Von and Dave Chappelle are on that side, the worse it is for us.
Yeah.
As the, machine
That's a great point.
or whatever. I'm going to sound very anti-Semitic, I think, if I keep going. Like, I say words like the machine, and I'm like, it sounds like I'm saying the Jews.
I didn't even consider that.
Jews.
Yeah.
I mean APEC or whatever, just as one example, the main one. That's what I think. I think there were meetings about it. I think there were some things written. I think for the most part, it was like, we don't want it even in the news cycle that Dave Chappelle feels this way. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I saw a thing yesterday where the dude that's playing Jimmy Olsen in Superman, apparently when he was reading his sides for that, he thought he was auditioning to play Superman, which is hilarious looking at him. But anyways, I was reading the comments and somebody was like, yeah, I'm not seeing this movie because that guy's a Zionist, And then somebody commented, they're like, that guy's a Zionist? And they were like, yeah. And they're like, oh, fuck, I won't see the movie either. And I was like, man, I just got to not read about people because I feel like there's a whole lot of movies I wouldn't be able to see if that's the case. You know what I'm saying?
That's certainly part of it. By the way, I just remembered it was one of his SNL monologues.
Chappelle?
Dave Chappelle, like, pretty defiantly kind of did come after, quote unquote, the Jews.
Yeah, you're right. I don't remember if he made that a Palestine thing or not. Maybe he did, but I remember him being like, look, they do kind of run Hollywood. It was that kind of thing is how I remember.
I think, like, not too long after that, he connected it to that.
Yeah,
as I recall, it is hazy for me for a variety of reasons. reasons.
Speaking of which, me and Bane last night, I decided to show him The Patriot for the first time, and people have said it before, better men than me. But say what you will about Mel Gibson, but the son of a bitch knows story structure. You know what I mean? God damn.
Oh yeah, that movie rules, dog.
I've seen a lot of people lately talking about, now that Mel Gibson's on like President Trump's Hollywood ambassador thing, they're trying to act like that Mel Gibson never hit, and boy, it is just really hard for me to watch people embarrass themselves like that. You know what I
It's
mean?
so
Like,
dumb to do that because it makes it harder to just shit all over. I've forgotten his name. Any of their other quote unquote celebrities because they have so
right,
few with any
James
talent.
Woods or whatever. But even like
James
James Woods.
Woods hit.
Kevin
I know,
Sorbo.
no, I know.
Kevin
That's what
Sorbo.
that was the next sentence. But
Kevin
he's not Mel
Sorbo
Gibson. But
doesn't
the
hit,
next,
right.
yeah, right, Sorbo. But like the next sentence that was about to come out of my mouth is like Woods is lesser on that thing, and so is John Voight. But both of them are fucking awesome. Like, dude, John
Yeah.
Voight was dude. Anytime that motherfucker in a movie and he playing the bad guy, sign me the fuck up. But like, it's stupid. Like,
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. The
Go
other
ahead.
reason that didn't come out that hard with Chappelle is you got competing racism there.
That's
something
true.
that you got to understand about a solid, and I mean huge chunk of American support for Israel just comes from a sort of either evangelical notion of like this is the best way to make the Bible come true and those are God, but like they're anti-Semitic people,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, and then
They just love the
financially.
Israeli government.
And then there's just like there's a lot of like right wing type people who are like, those are our allies, and here are the reasons why that I've been taught over and over again, and so we got to support them. It doesn't come from like, so in other words, they weren't like defending the Jews when Dave Chappelle went after them.
But that also does some of those
you can
people
hate
that
Jews.
some of those people who are like, they're our allies. It has nothing to do with anything other than their allies. And I'm like, well, bruh, so is Canada, so is fucking England, and y'all constantly shit on them and are like, fuck them. They can, what would they be without us? So, like, it ain't that.
It's also, man, if in that worldview, and this is not one I share, but if I understand that one correctly, at some point we got to ask ourselves why.
Well,
why
why?
are they our
Yeah.
allies? Was it not because they upheld certain things you believe in? And has there not been proof after proof after proof that's no longer the case if it ever was? Like, allyship
Well, what the fuck?
is a negotiation.
I was about to say it's a
not
two-way street. What the fuck they
blank
ever done
check.
for us? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
gods.
Okay, sure.
I mean, that's the dark part of this is that we are all so fucking evil, but whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Mossad has helped us out quite a bit, I'd say.
Right. We are evil. Also, end on this note. Happy birthday, America. Look at you.
Oh, that's right.
49 years
Hey.
old this weekend. I'm off this weekend. This is a holiday weekend. But next Wednesday, July 9th, I got a Largo show in Los Angeles. Please come out to that if you're in the LA area. And then after that, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, then the La Jolla Comedy Store, and then Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City, St. Louis, Austin, and Indianapolis, and a whole bunch of other places after that in the near future. TraeCrowder.com. Please come and see me. Y'all go ahead.
I will be in Knoxville, Tennessee, July 25th. I will be in Denver in August. I'm about to announce that. I just want everyone to know I'm going to go back on the road. I love my son and I love my wife, but I need to see the people.
It's difficult.
Not in the next week or two, but in the next month or so, I'll be announcing next year's tour. I'm already talking to Chattanooga, Louisville. Anyway, I'll announce all that.
I'm back on the road. I'd like to thank everybody that came out to the show in Fort Worth, Texas. It was very, very fun. Had a blast. I'm off for a minute. I will be at Louisville at Comedy off Broadway August 14th.
Lexington.
And then
Lexington.
Lexington. What did I say?
You said Louisville.
Lexington. My bad. Lexington at one of our favorite comedy clubs, Comedy Off Broadway, August 14th. And then right after the next day, I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia. You can get those tickets at CoreyRyanForrester.com. Also, be on the lookout. I've got a new podcast about to come out called Public Domain Sleepy Time Theater. It's where this season we're reading The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. You can get all the episodes that are already out. We're already up to chapter 20 at WeLoveCorey.com. And that's where you can get them ad-free and all that good stuff. It's a blast. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED Show. We love to stick. Oh, listen to Putting on Air's Gravy Baby and Weekly Skews. We love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Tune in next week if you got nothing to do. Thank you. God bless you. Good night and skew.
Fart.
Fart.
Putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. We collected from our love of Downton Abbey. We collected, we found out we're both so fancy. Hey, what's the difference between rednecks and royal families? Only money, cause they both have sex with family. Ew. Putting on airs. What other rednecks will talk about foreign affairs? Laughing so hard that we end up falling out our chairs. Sir Trae, Sir Corey, oh what a pair. High class topics with a redneck flair, oh yeah. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Two rednecks but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Okay, it's Team Squirrel up Team Trae. Oh yeah, we keeping it basic. He thinks that the squirrels at Corey's mom's house are racist. And you know squirrels live in the same place for generations. So Trae, you better count your days and you better count your blessings. Cause all the squirrels that you ran over, that you think are nameless, faceless, their families are getting together and plotting on you from the attic and basement. So even though Corey is dumb, fat, and bald, he knows how to avoid drama, don't get squirrels involved. Two rednecks, but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real fancy, sit in our chairs, sip on our tea, putting on airs. Two rednecks, but we're still fancy, putting on airs. We might not know much about history, we don't care. We gon' get drunk and we talk about yachts. We gon' get drunk and we gon' talk a lot. Dress real